Corporate Finance Excel practice problem. In this presentation, we're going to work a practice problem in Excel related to the calculation of present value using different discount rates, having a side-by-side comparison as we use those different discount rates. We will also use the goal seek feature to find the rate that would achieve a particular value. Get ready. It's time to take your chance with Corporate Finance. Here we are in Excel. We have our information on the left-hand side. We're going to put that into the blue area into our worksheet on the right-hand side. Our scenario is that we will get in 30 years, 30 time periods, 30 years, a amount of $100,000. We want to present value that back into the current time period. We're going to be using different discount rates to do that. Remember that the discount rates are something that we would have to determine. This is something that's not really set in stone. We're going to predict what the discount rates are in order to present value this $100,000. We're going to say that is going to be received, or you can think about being paid or something in the future period. So we're going to want to bring it back to today's dollars, and we need to discount it to do so. So we can think about like the time value of money in order to think about that. We might think about what we could do with that $100,000 today in order to kind of figure out what the discount rate would be, as well as the inflation that might be involved with regards to the money actually just going down in terms of purchasing power. We're going to use a 12%, a higher discount rate, not unreasonably high, but a higher rate, and then a relatively low rate, discount rate of the 5%. We will compare and contrast them side by side. Then we'll also think about, well, what if we were to get to the value? What if I was to say I would like to think about the value being equal today in $20,000 value as compared to the value of the $100,000 after the 30 years? What discount rate, in other words, would get me to that $20,000? We'll use the goal seek feature this time to work into that problem using the same formula, but then goal seek to kind of back into this number. A very useful tool within Excel, and I think it's worthwhile to get acquainted with it. All right, so we're going to do the calculation, present value calculation. It's going to equal the future value times 1 over 1 plus r to the n, or we can rewrite that as present at the future value over 1 plus r to the n. R is the rate, n or the discount rate, and n is going to be the number of periods. Okay, so I'm going to say we're going to break this down into a table. So I'm going to pick up this first half, which is going to be the future value, the numerator. I'm going to put it in the outer column. I'm going to calculate A first. So we're going to be picking up the 100,000, and then I'm going to pick up the denominator. I'm going to calculate that into the inside, into the inner columns, which is going to be then this 1 plus r to the power of n. 1 plus r to the power of n. It's going to be 1, and then I'm going to say rate, which is r. This is going to be starting at the 12%. Let's percentify that. Go into the Home tab, Numbers group, percentifying it. Then Home tab, Fonts group, underline it. Then we'll sum this up, and this is going to be equal to the r plus, or let's say 1 plus r. 1 plus r, that's what we're going to have here. And that's going to be the sum of equals the sum of the 1 plus r, which is 1 plus 12. Then we got to percentify that, which is going to be Home tab, Numbers group, percentify to get to that 112. And then we're going to say this is going to be taken to the n power, to the power of n, which is the number of periods that we're talking about. Periods that we're talking about. And we're talking periods in terms of years, that being 30. So 30 years, we're going to underline this. This is going to be Home tab, Fonts group, and underline. And that's going to give us our total denominator. So that's our denominator, which is going to be this. And I'm going to say then we're going to have this in the outer column now will be equal to the percent, which is 1 plus r, to the power of, which is going to be shift 6, or the caret, the 30 years. The 30 years. Let's indent this now, or let's format this cell first. And I'm going to format it, Home tab, number, add some decimals. Then let's indent these items because we have the subcalculation. I'm going to select these. Home tab, alignment, indent. I'll indent one more time. Home tab, alignment, indent. Then we're going to have the present value calculated as equal to the 100,000 divided by the amount we had there, which is going to be equal to 3,377. Let's add some decimals. Home tab, numbers, add a few decimals. There we have it. Let's underline here, Home tab, Font group, and underline. And so that is good. Now, if I was to figure out what I would expect to find on the table down below, and we'll see the table calculation in the future in a second here. So that would be the 3337.79 about divided by the 100,000. Let's add some decimals, home tab, numbers, add a few decimals. This is what we would expect to basically see on the table if we were to look up the 30 years at the 12%. Let's do the same thing for 5% now. I want to do that right next to it here. And I want to basically do that by formatting these cells. So I'm going to use the same formatting of the cells. So I'm going to select these cells first. I'm going to go to the Home tab, Clipboard, Format Paint. And then I'm going to paint this entire section over here with the same formatting. Now we'll just do the calculation. It's going to be the same starting point with the 100,000. It's going to be the same, that's going to be the numerator or future value denominator 1 plus r to the n. The 1's going to be the same. The r is going to differ now. The r is now at the 5%. No formatting required because we formatted it already. Let's sum this up, equals the sum. So 1 plus r now is 1 plus the 5%, or 105%. That's going to be the 1 plus r. Now we have the number of periods, so we're going to take that to the number of periods, which is 30 years. And now let's do that calculation down on the outer column now, which is going to be the 105, 1 plus r to the power of 30. So this is the 105% shift 6, or the caret to the power of 30. There we have it. Now we're going to say this will equal the numerator over or divided by the denominator. And so now we're at 23. And of course you can see a significant difference in the present value due to a significant difference in the discount rate. Then let's calculate what we would expect to see on the table, this being the 4.32 and so on, divided by the 23,137 and so on. That's the amount that we would expect to see on the table. Now, the next thing we might say, so okay, well, what if I want like this present value? What discount rate would make this present value be 20,000? Like if I'm talking about 100,000 in 20 years, what discount rate would make it so that the 20,000 today would be equal to the 100,000 in the 30 years? So for that, we could use a goal seek feature for now. That's what we're going to do. We're going to say, okay, let's change one of these rates. Let's pick this one. Let's change that rate, this 5% here, to what we think it should be, or whatever it needs to be, in order to make these two things equivalent. Basically a break-even analysis to this 20,000, making the 100,000 in 30 years equivalent to the 20,000 today using the appropriate discount rate. So to do that, we're gonna go over here and say use our goal seek feature, which is in the data tab, and we're gonna say, all right, I would like to use goal seek and say what if goal seek, and then I'm gonna say I would like you to set this cell right there to be equal to 20,000, and I want you to do that by changing this cell. But I can't change the 5% because it's a reference. That cell's coming from somewhere else. So I got to change this 5%. And so I'm going to say, okay, do that, please. And there it does it. So now that's our break even. It's rounded. What I want to do is copy this cell. I'm going to right click and copy it. And I want to just put it over here. It's got to be a hard coded number. So I'm going to right click and paste it just 1, 2, 3. Either way, paste it 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to percentify it, home tab. Numbers, percentify it, and then I'll add some decimals so it's really something like that. So 5.5113 or so on. So if I was to use that number, so if I go back on over here and I say, okay, let's switch this back to just straight 5. So if I'm at 5%, it's at 23. But if I use this number over here, that's my break even, which is closer to 6%, 5.511. And that gives me my 20,000. Okay, so let's go back to the 5% there, and let's do this break even with a formula, the present value formula. So this is going to be present value PV, and we'll do this with the two values. The first one's going to be the 12%. So 12%. Actually, no, I got A and B right there, so I'll just do A and B. So this is then going to be equal to, and we'll say present value, double clicking on the present value. We're going to pick up the rate, which I'll pick up the first one. I'll just take that 12% right there, comma, the number of periods was 30 periods. I'll pick it up right there, comma, no payment because it's not an annuity. So I'll say 0, comma, future value is going to be the 100,000. And then I'll put a negative in front of the P to flip the sign from a negative number to a positive number. Enter, and there we have it. Let's add some decimals. Home tab, numbers, add a few decimals. And so there we have it. If we do it for B, we're going to say, all right, this is going to be equal to the present value. Double click the present value. Then we'll pick up the rate, which is now 5%, comma, number of periods, which is going to be 30, comma. There's no payment because it's not an annuity. I could put 0 or simply another comma. Future value, 100,000. Let's put a negative in front of the P to flip the sign to make it a positive number instead of a negative. Enter. Add some decimals. Home tab, numbers, add a few decimals. There's our side by side with the drastically different rates. If I do the break even, present value, let's just call it break even point. I'll pick up this number down below. It's not A or B, it's just the break even. So I'm going to say this will equal the present value. Double clicking the present value. We're going to pick up the rate now, this rate, and then comma, number of periods, still 30 periods, comma, no payment, it's not an annuity, so you could put 0 or simply another comma, and then the future value, 100,000, and then I'll put a negative in front of the P to make it a positive number, flipping the sign. There we have it. We can add some decimals, home tab, numbers, adding some decimals, it's going to be our break even, so it's exactly at that 20,000. Let's do it one more time with the tables. So now we'll use the tables. We're going to say, all right, let's start with the future value here on the table. The future value is going to be that 100,000, same starting point for both sides of the table. Then we're going to pick up the table amount. And so the first one was 12%, 30 years. 12%, 30 years. That's like all the way at the bottom. No, it's not at the bottom. It's right there. 0.0334. So 0.0334. Let's do that one more time. It was 30 years, 12%. 12%, 30 years is 0.0334. So let's use that. Say this is going to be 0.04334. Let me do that again. 0.0334. And then add decimals, home tab, numbers, add a few decimals so that we can see it, underline it, and then I'm going to multiply this out. This is going to be the 100,000 times that number, and then we get the 3340. Let's add some decimals by going to the home tab, numbers, and add a few decimals. So there we have it. Now notice it's a little bit more off than you might expect, and that's because it's a 30-year out. So we have a rounding to 4 digits. 0.0334, it should be 0.03338 if we took it out for more digits. And so we have a significant time period, so it's going to be a little bit higher, possibly of a rounding error than we might see in other examples. Okay, so then we're going to say then that we have the next one, 5%, 30 years. So we're going to say, all right, 5%, 30 years. It's going to be down here, is at 0.2314. 0.2314, so let's do that. So 0.2314, and then I'm gonna format these two. Home tab, clipboard format painter, and there's the formatting. Let's multiply this out. This is gonna be the 100,000 times that number. So that's gonna be the 23,140. Again, it's a little bit different than this number here due to the fact that it's rounded 2314, as opposed to over here, it's going to be the amount of, let me recalculate this amount here because I don't think I picked it up. It's going to be this number divided by this number would make it 0.231377 instead of rounding it to 2314. Okay, and so this is going to be the present value, present value. So PV. So it's worth just working these a few different ways and multiple different times just to get a feel for these present values in terms of what the results will be, the effect of the discount rates, as well as, you know, how you would calculate those within Excel.